If you've been playing by these standard job search rules, such as apply more or practice your answer to tell me about yourself, but you're not getting the results you want, then this is the video for you, because we are going to burn the job search playbook and play by a completely different set of rules. Hi, I'm Laura, a career relaunch coach, and I'm here to take your job search from stressful to successful. Now, the tips I'm going to share in this video are not based on theory. These are the tips that I share with my clients, and they are landing jobs faster and for more money. Tip number one is to make the process about them, not you. Now, this is going to sound harsh, but the company doesn't care about you, at least not in the beginning. Yet most job seekers lead with what they want and what they need, but ultimately the company is looking for a solution to their problems. And I see this throughout the hiring process, from the cover letter to the interviewing to the thank you email. Now let's take a look at a standard cover letter. I am excited to apply for the executive assistant position at ABC company. I bring 10 years of experience in support roles and am confident I would be a great fit for the role. I look forward to hearing from you. Yeah, it's pretty apparent. This cover letter is all about the person writing it. Now, compare it to this one. Your role is to make strategic business decisions while managing financial and operational risk. My role is to ensure you can do so knowing that behind the scenes logistics are running like a well-oiled machine. Over the years, I've built a reputation for being a trusted advisor to senior leaders, enabling them to focus on operating at their highest level. And then list how you did so. Now, the difference between these two cover letters is very obvious. The first one is all about what the job seeker needs. The second one focuses on the issues that the company, and more specifically, the hiring manager, is facing. And I want you to keep this in the back of your mind throughout the entire hiring process. How can you make the process about the company rather than you? And one way is to solve problems, which is my second tip. Solve real problems, not just hypothetical ones. Yes, you're probably going to be asked, so tell me about a time when, in an interview. And in those cases, they're looking to see how you think and how you would approach similar situations. But what if you already came prepared with a solution? What if you already showed up saying, well, I actually know that you're having this problem. Here's how I deal with it. You may be wondering, how do I know what problems they're facing, let alone how to fix them? Well, it does take some research and effort on your part. Now, let's say you were applying for an admin assistant role with your city. Now, you already have dealt with the city, paying water bills, getting information on parking permits. So you already have an idea of the way that you think it could be improved. And you show up at all points with real solutions. And I'm talking about when you're reaching out to inquire about the job, in your cover letter, in your interview, and even in your thank you email. And this is a big one, the thank you email. You've already learned about their problems, but too often people simply say, thank you for your time. I love learning about the role. It's great meeting the team, and I can't wait to hear back from you. But this golden opportunity is your time to show them not only did you hear what their problems were, you thought about them, and you have come up with a solution. I had a client do this, and she said that they had never had anybody do this before. And she had simply created a checklist of how she would structure the process that they needed help with. And yes, she landed the job. And if you are looking for more one-on-one support in your own job search, I will include a link in the description on how we can work together. And tip number 3 is that you need to spend less time applying. Most people think it's a numbers game. The more jobs that you apply to, the higher likelihood that you are going to have at landing one. But if we think about it, we know for a fact that 50 to 80% of positions, they are filled through either referrals or recommendations. So you need to be focusing your time on creating those connections. Now, I'm not saying that you have to go to a networking event where there's 100 people and collect all the business cards. In fact, I think that's probably one of the worst ways to do so. Instead, I want you to start building out your network organically, authentically, telling your neighbor you're looking for a job, hopping on LinkedIn and commenting on people's posts and re-engaging those connection points. There are truly so many options here. I also had a client who was just talking with their hairdresser, and she let her know that she was looking for a job. Now, her hairdresser could help her, but her hairdresser knew somebody who could help her because they worked in that profession. Well, that person ended up talking to my client a bit more about the profession itself, and then learned that my client was interested in a certain company. Well, she put her in touch with somebody at that company, and yes, she ultimately landed a job there. And tip number 4 is to skip contacting the recruiter, at least in the beginning. Now, most people, if they see the recruiter's name on a job description, they think, I'm going to send them an email and leave it at that. Well, remember, the recruiter is most likely just the gatekeeper, and they are inundated with resumes and emails all the time. That recruiter is not only hiring for the position you see, but dozens others. So they have a lot on their plate, and it is easy for you to get looked over. Instead, find the person who is the hiring manager, or your best approximation of who that person is, because that is the person who is going to ultimately make the hiring decision. And they have a lot riding on this. Now, I had a client who found the hiring manager's email. It wasn't listed, and they sent them an email directly. When they were in the interview, the hiring manager told them the only reason they were there is because they had reached out to them directly. They actually had to go to the recruiter and have their resume pulled because it had already been passed on. That is the power of reaching out to the decision maker rather than the gatekeeper. And tip number 5 is to go beyond your paid work experience. Now, a lot of people just have their resume focused on paid work experience, and they forget about volunteering, certifications, professional associations, publications. There is a lot more to you than just what you received a paycheck for. Not only does this make you a more well-rounded individual, but it can offer a connection point that you might not expect. Let's say you volunteer for a nonprofit and the hiring manager sits on the board of that nonprofit. You have a connection point you wouldn't have had if you didn't put that on your resume. Now, I do want you to be thoughtful about what you're putting on your resume and cover letter, not just throwing everything out there. But if it's something that is relevant or something that gives you a bit more context as to how you would be a good fit for this position, then add it in. It doesn't just have to be the work experience you have been compensated for. And tip number 6 is to show up in real life, not just on LinkedIn. Now, I do think there is a huge benefit to using LinkedIn. Yes, I'm not arguing that, but I think too many people then forget that there is real life too. Now, when I talk about real life, I mean something as simple as going for a walk in your neighborhood and having a conversation with a neighbor, letting them know that you're looking for a job, or showing up to in-person events at your local chapter of an association that you're part of. Having conversations in real life is so important because that person gets to know you a little bit more and is invested, and you never ever know who those people may know. And tip number 7 is when you receive a rejection email, I want you to send a thank you. Yes, I know it's probably the last thing you want to do. Instead, you want to send off a nasty response. But I can't tell you the number of times on the other side of the hiring table where we have had our top candidate not work out, and I would rather reach out to one of our top 2 or 3 candidates than go back to the drawing board. Now, if I have a candidate who had sent me a genuine thank you email, then I would go straight for them before starting the whole process over. There is such power in this. And if you would like a video specifically on what you should say in your rejection thank you email, then check out my video here.